Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Welcome. Thank you. I gotta say thank you to Kobe for our intro song. We adopted Kobe's song.
Kobe Bryant.
Not Kobe Bryant. He couldn't put together a mix like that. We adopted Kobe, his song towards the end of last season, and that's probably one of the dopest tracks that you can open a show to ever. Anyway, welcome everybody to another edition of Focus. I am your host, Mr. Ron Frierson, and to my left is my brother, Mr. Woody Wilson.
What's up, man?
Hi to the people, Woody.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, it's a cold, rainy day in Los Angeles. We were stuck in traffic. It's been a lot of stuff going on, and we're happy that we're here on time this week, and we're ready to bring you the real, which is what we do according to our worldview.
A lot going on this week.
Yes, it is. So I'm going to start off with my normal rant. And if you guys notice my social media, you will see I started with good Trump versus bad Trump. And there is a good Trump versus a bad Trump. And what I try not to do is I try not to get so caught up on everything that he's doing wrong so I can't see where there's light, because I don't want to be that person that seems so polarized and so biased that I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, or make everything seem as if civilization is going to hell in a handbasket. So I try to find points of light wherein there is hope. I've always said with this new president, that maybe in regards to trade policy, maybe he'll be able to make a difference because he's so unpredictable. Or maybe in regards to, because of what he was speaking about in his campaign about trying to bring jobs back to the United States, that maybe he would, do something to spark the manufacturing sector and things like that. Things that affect people from my part of the country, of where I come from. I'm from the Midwest. I am born and raised in Michigan, and I went to undergrad and grad school in Kansas. So I'm Midwestern through and through. So I understand those Rust Belt issues. I understand the culture wars. I come from an urban area, but at the same time, I'm very, very familiar with rural areas, and I have great lifelong friends that straddle all these different communities, and I have international experience. So I try not to put myself completely on one team and forget about the voices of those that may have a different worldview. So all that being said, let's start off with good Trump.
Good Trump.
This is going to be a short segment.
It's going to be a short segment.
Okay. So I think good Trump, in this regards, from what I see, is that he's starting to see the difference between campaigning and governing in some specific areas. And some of those specific areas are, let's say, the one China policy. He has now come out and he's endorsed the one China policy.
Right.
China considers Taiwan a renegade province. And so once President-elect at the time, Trump, called or spoke to the Taiwanese president individually, that was a major breach of protocol in China's eyes.
A disruption, yes.
Exactly. And remember, China is the second largest economy on the planet, and they are a major trading partner of ours. We have a symbiotic relationship, and you don't want to...
Taiwan is fourth.
Exactly. You don't want to really inhibit or do anything to disrupt that policy too much. maybe shake it up a bit to make it a little more even, but to disrupt it too much is not a good thing. To have a trade war with China is not a good thing. So the simple fact that he now has said, no, we respect the one China policy, that's a good move.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that he changed on in regards to his stance is that he is now saying through his intermediaries that he's going to support the Iran nuclear deal.
Right.
We're going to get deeper into that, but that's a huge change from the stuff he was saying before. Remember during the campaign, I'm going to do my little bit of a Trump imitation. That's a terrible, terrible deal. It's a terrible deal, So anyway, he's now supporting the Iran nuclear deal according to recent reports, which is smart, because if you knew everything that was involved with that, you'll know that deal is not just between the United States and Iran. It's a lot of countries involved. And so if we pull out unilaterally, that wouldn't be good for us. Another thing that he's done is that he's actually said that it doesn't help that the Israeli settlements are continuing during this time.
Right. He's absolutely right about that.
And that's correct. Now, me being very pro-Israel, that does not mean that you have to be pro-Bibi Netanyahu, or doesn't mean that you have to be pro-settlements. They are a country just like we are a country. They have dissenting voices that think the settlements are good, just like they have voices that think the settlements are okay. They have it within their country. We can have the same thing within our country without being questioned whether or not you're pro-Israel. So let that be known. So, and I agree with that, because if you're going to have a two-state solution, you have to have room for the other state to form.
Right.
If they don't have any room to form because you're building settlements everywhere, then there can't be a two-state solution.
It's kind of common sense in my mind.
That's common sense, but the simple fact that he said it lets me know that he's at least someone in his ear that's thinking about it. So I'm trying to come up with another good Trump. Can you think of anything?
I'm a little confused about this immigration policy with Trump. Okay, yeah. I'm like on the fence with that. No pun intended. But okay. So the law states that you can't be here in this country illegally, right? Everyone knows that, and so we've got sanctuary cities. Mm-hmm. So which means that we know people are here illegally, and it's okay. They're in these cities that we consider sanctuary cities for those who are here illegally.
Yeah.
So where do you draw the line? I'm not saying this ban on folks coming into the country. I disagree with that. There's got to be a way to filter through the process, and we'll get back to that. But right now, I'm not sure where I stand with these sanctuary cities. Is it because if the law states A, B, C, you really you have to uphold the law or you don't. So, and if you can't, if you're going to have sanctuary cities, then you have to figure out a way to include that in the law somehow.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not.
It's
not something that.
Exactly. It's like one of those things where it's a tricky deal.
It's very difficult.
It's very because humans are complex. None of us are just one thing. There's very few things in life that are strictly black and strictly white. It's all intermingled. That's life. And so I always wondered about obviously for any nation. To be a nation, they have to have control of their borders. That's just
absolutely
sense, So that makes sense. Also, along with that, you have to take into account humanitarian issues. You have to take into account economics. You have to take into account the density of the population and the stress that's put on the infrastructure based on population and things of that sort.
Right, and the benefit of refugees.
And the social safety net that's affected by immigration. So you have to do all of that, but also remember that you're dealing with people. You're not dealing with livestock. You're not dealing with inanimate objects. These are people,
right? With families.
And families. That's the biggest thing, families, because families can be broken up. So, one thing I always wish, Woody, that I can put my finger on is for us. I consider myself a rational liberal. Mm-hmm. I'm not a bleeding heart liberal. I'm a rational liberal.
Okay.
I always wonder, how much of this is championed by people who truly have humanitarian issues that they're concerned with, or how much of it is championed by people that just want low-paying wages, unskilled, I said this. labor.
You've heard me say this before, that Los Angeles, every restaurant in Los Angeles would be closed if they truly went after illegal folks in this country.
Yeah.
I mean, if you talk to a busboy asking for some water or something, he doesn't speak English, and so I mean that's the obvious indicator right there. So yeah, it is making people money, especially the city of Los Angeles. Los Angeles, Miami, Phoenix, Arizona, and I don't think that if you actually followed the law by the rule and started to send folks back, we would be in pretty big trouble here.
So in my opinion, I don't think that,
and not just
So in my opinion, I think that immigration control has to be something that's tackled by the United States and Mexico together. I don't think that one country can do it because you need both of them to work hand in hand and make it happen,
and not just Mexico.
Exactly. All the South American countries that, and that's a good point, because a lot of people come in from Ecuador, from Honduras, and all different places in Latin America that come up through the southern border.
Asia.
But, Asia too. But in regards to the great migration of people coming from Latin America, I always think they need to work together. The reason being is that, obviously, and I said this last week, for you to want to uproot your entire family from wherever you are in the world, and leave your roots where your grandparents and your great-grandparents, where you come from, your homeland, to go on an unknown journey in search for a better life, that means where you are has to be completely screwed up. It has to be bad. So that means that conditions in those countries are so bad that these people feel desperate that they
risk
need to get
their
out.
lives
They
to
risk
get here.
their lives. Okay. And then on the other end of the fence, you have another economy that can take advantage of unskilled labor or low wage labor, let's just say low wage labor, so they can increase their profits and they can have a viable business, maybe because they think the only way they could survive is to have this low wage labor, because there's so many regulations and stuff that if they had to pay a certain amount in benefits or in labor, then they wouldn't be able to stay afloat. And so one feeds the other. So that means that there needs to be reform and enforcement on both sides of the issue. The government in these Latin American countries, they need to do more for their people.
Well, that's obvious, but
so
that's not gonna. But also, I was talking. It's funny because I had to have something altered real quick, and I took it down the street on Robertson to a guy and he was telling me about his journey from El Salvador. And how he came to this country because he was so poor. He said he had to eat dirt sometimes. So dirt poor, I mean, that brings a whole new meaning to that. But anyway, he came here and he says, I learned how to tailor. He says that I'm not here taking anyone's job. Americans don't want to do this job. And he's absolutely right. All the tailors, and I'm in the business. They are from a foreign country. No one's going to tailoring school. They're going to design school, fashion design school, but ultimately their objective is not to be a tailor.
That's a great point.
So
Woody.
a lot of these busboys in these restaurants and such. I mean, when I was in high school, I was a busboy. I think that's a great job for someone at that age. But there's a lot of jobs out there that Americans will not do because we're spoiled in certain respects. So
that's a good point, because I understand that there's some, like in Saudi Arabia, they import a lot of their labor that they think is beneath them, similar to what we do here. They import people from other parts.
All
of
the housekeepers
East,
out there,
housekeepers and everything. It's the same
the
thing.
nannies.
So so it's sad to say we have more common with Saudi Arabia than we like to admit. But that's a good point. That's a very good point. So, it's time for a commercial already. Okay, let's take a commercial break.
Pay these
and
bills.
We'll come back. Pay the bills. That's right.
Be right back.
We'll be right back.
Zhivago timepieces are luxury watches for both women and men. Designs for women are inspired by classic femininity while maintaining their contemporary style. Designs for men blend classic elegance and sporty versatility. All timepieces remain true to the Zhivago lifestyle, including their glamorous presentation, which is a nod to the famous Parisian fragrance that started it all. Zhivago timepieces transcend the ages, recalling life's most treasured moments. Let Zhivago inspire you.
Visit www.zhivagowatches.com or shop Zhivago Watches on Amazon.
We're Simone and Valerie, real estate professionals with Coldwell Banker Beverly Hills North, the #1 grossing office in the nation. Whether you're thinking of purchasing a new home, selling your old, or just have real estate related questions, we're confident we can help you.
One of the biggest complaints people have of their agent is lack of communication, so we make sure we are constantly in touch with our clients and keep them informed every step of the way. Our philosophy is simple: provide our clients with outstanding service from start to finish.
Our goal is to be there for you from your first home to any future properties you buy or sell.
We want to be your agent's
Yeah, good stuff.
Yes. Hey, welcome back. Before we get started, I want to bring up one of our new primary sponsors. I want to highlight Dr. Yates Hair Science.
Great guy, Dr. Yates.
Great guy, Dr. Yates, and the thing that makes his products so remarkable is that it focuses on women's hair loss. So, and lots of women, and you really don't think about this when it comes to women, but a lot of women experience hair loss, maybe not on the same level as men, but they do. And he has a program of different products that helps reduce the likelihood of hair loss for women.
Yeah.
So be sure to go and check out his website and check out his products. There's a whole program with it, DrYatesHairScience.com. Again, DrYatesHairScience.com. Go check him out, check out his products. And by using these products, and he's a surgeon based in Chicago that specializes in hair replacement, so he knows what to give you to keep you from coming to him for some sort of
He's
procedure.
one of the best in the business, folks.
One of the best in the business, world renowned. Okay, so before we went to commercial break, we were speaking about immigration. So obviously we have to talk about this travel ban that the president tried to put into place.
Yeah,
which
backfired. It was a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess. It was a huge mess. I think that I don't know. He's definitely really trying to capitalize or make his campaign promises, trying to keep those.
Yeah.
But whether or not it was the right thing to do is an entirely different issue. And I guess the argument is it truly a Muslim ban? I say the intent was a Muslim ban because according to Rudy Giuliani in a Fox interview, and according to the president during his campaign season, he was basically saying that he needs to ban Muslims.
And there are 9 Muslim states, right?
Yeah, 7. It was 7. Maybe some have been added to the list since the last time, but it was 7 predominantly Muslim countries that the president, former President Obama, gave kind of a special alert in regards to people traveling within those countries, or that those countries didn't have the security apparatus to ensure that people traveling within those countries weren't involved in any sort of terrorist activity. So he had a special kind of alert put on these places. But we need to remember that he took it a step too far, in my opinion. President Trump did, because all of this, the security mechanisms were already in place. They already had heightened scrutiny if you traveled to any of these countries from any other Western country, or traveling from these countries anywhere else. You had added scrutiny. It was built into the system already. And I think to appease his base, he took it a step further to make it seem as if he's going to be even more muscular on it. But in the meantime, what he's done is probably, in my opinion, make it less safe for us, because he's basically
he's playing into the hands of the radicals.
Yeah, he's playing into the hands of the radicals.
And it wasn't even necessary. I mean, you can impose some type of stricter screening process.
Yeah.
But to say that you can't travel to the U.S. if you're from these countries, and most of these countries that he banned have never attacked us.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. The weird thing about that is that I think that he, it may not. It's perceived. It may not be a Muslim ban because if you think about it, technically, when I say but there's so many more Muslim. But the largest Muslim country is Indonesia, population-wise, the people they have there. And then obviously he didn't have Saudi Arabia. He didn't have some of the other prominent Muslim countries on there. But the fact is that the intent, so whether or not technically it's a Muslim ban, the fact that his intent was there, and maybe this is a foot in that direction of a complete Muslim ban, and the perception is what's driving this, and that perception is something that he formed. You never heard about this being a Muslim ban with these 7 countries when the President Obama was in office, and it's because he didn't set it up that way, and it wasn't that way. So if he would have gone and said, we need even more scrutiny on these 7 countries, without all of the garbage that he spewed earlier in the campaign about there being a Muslim ban, and without Rudy Giuliani going for a Muslim ban, then maybe it wouldn't be perceived as a Muslim ban, because now it's to a point where that perception has shaped.
I think he wanted to. Yeah, I think he wanted that perception. He wanted to do what he promised on his campaign trail to his loyal followers or whatever. And I think and he did it without going through the proper procedures. And I understand now he's really getting frustrated with the fact that he cannot run the government as a business, and there's some tension in the Trump house. And
then on top of that, I mean, think about it. He's peddling so much fear. As a matter of fact, we have a video where he's sometimes making up stuff, and it's a war against the media in this regards. He is trying to discredit the media, which is.
He's always tried to do that.
Yeah, but that's not good, because this is the action that tyrants take. They discredit the media if they don't agree with things that the media say against them. This sounds Nixonian almost.
Did that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, most tyrants do stuff like that. If they can't control the media, they discredit it and they label everything fake news. Jarvis, play that that clip I have with Trump talking about that specific action.
You've seen what happened in Paris and Nice. All over Europe, it's happening. It's gotten to a point where it's not even being reported. And in many cases, the very, very dishonest press doesn't want to report it. They have their reasons, and you understand that.
After he said that, the White House released a list of the attacks that he was supposedly referring to as, in his words, not even being reported. I want to put up some footage of CNN reporters covering the attacks on that list. I spent 2 weeks in Paris in 2015 reporting on the attacks. We also see on the screen dozens of my colleagues, Alison Camerata covering the bombings in Brussels, Chris Cuomo and Anderson Cooper reporting on the supermarket attack in Paris, Brooke Baldwin covering the attack in Nice, Victor Blackwell reporting on the shootings in San Bernardino. Kellyanne, CNN and other media organizations cover terrorism around the world all the time. Saying that we don't cover terrorism, that's just false.
Yeah, that's what she does.
She's got a tough job there.
She does. Because best of our society.
Right.
But I have people that are very, very close to me that I really respect them, that are for Trump. And I wonder how they can be and how they would act if this were President Obama doing this same type of stuff.
Oh, well, we already know that.
I mean, but they'll never just come out and say it. No. If you had just blatant
It'd
examples,
be the end of the world. They'd
just
call it
obvious examples of just flat out lying. I mean, straight up just lying, not telling I'm misquoting facts out of mistake.
You know what?
I
think
lying.
People just get. I think America has gotten fed up to the point where, and when I say America, I mean the folks that have voted for Trump got fed up with the fact that there are so many other folks in this country that they seem like they're losing a foothold on what they had in terms of stability, financial stability, industry. I think they're threatened, in a sense, and they want it to stop. Thusly, the borders, the fence, the ban on Muslims, and I get the threat with Muslims because, of course, terrorism. But we took that too far. But I don't understand how he can blatantly lie, and then people still follow him and support him and act like he is not lying.
I think I
don't understand
about some
connection.
of that. I agree, and about some of that, I'm not,
because they just don't. You must not care if you ignore it.
What I think
that's not what's important to you. You're not looking for your president to tell you the truth. You're not looking for him to bring facts to the table.
Mm-hmm.
There's an ulterior motive there.
You know what I actually think, man? I think that this is a situation that we've become so cynical that we think they're all the same. And then also,
who's they?
I mean, that they as in politicians. Mm-hmm. I think that many in our country think that they're all the same, and it doesn't matter who's in office, and they are just happy to have someone in there that will shake stuff up.
Right.
And then also the simple fact that he was speaking to people like me, people from.
Who was speaking to people like you?
He was speaking to people. When I say people like me, it's because coming from the Midwest, we remember what it was like when manufacturing was strong. We remember what it was like when jobs were plenty. And when he came and spent time in these areas, I always say that if Hillary vowed and fixed the water situation in Flint, she would be president, because other towns around the Midwest would have said, okay, now that's someone putting action behind their words. And that's why I think that what Trump did that was genius is that he spoke to those people. He spoke to
the Blue Belt of America.
He spoke to the Rust Belt. He spoke to those towns wherein it doesn't matter what kind of education you get, because once you graduate, you can't stay in the same town where you come from because there are no jobs. Mm-hmm. Or it's a very low unemployment rate, so that means a lot of people are working, but everybody working there is getting minimum wage, so they have to work 2 or 3 jobs. And they remember a time when it wasn't like that. And what he has sold them on, and they're going to give them a chance, is that he sold them on he's going to restore them back economically, not just the cultural stuff, which some people read into, but also economically. And what he did with Carrier, it showed them that he's trying. I truly believe that where the Democrats lost their way is because instead of going into these areas and letting them know, listen, we're going to try to do what we can to help you here in your state and doing this and doing that, we were out in the coast and we were trying to get money from Silicon Valley and hanging out with celebrities, when that really doesn't matter to the people in the middle of the country. They just want to have a decent job and a pension. And they've been voting Democrat for years in many respects, and nothing's changed. So I think that's where it comes
you're
from.
right. I call it Blue Belt, blue collar jobs, Middle America, Rust Belt. Those folks got tired of losing their jobs, those jobs being shipped overseas, which I can understand.
Yeah.
They feel like, some of them feel like their jobs are being lost to immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that he spoke to those folks, but now he's in office, and now he needs to uphold the integrity of the office.
Yeah.
And he's not doing that.
That's the bad Trump. That's where so those things I said that were good, where he touched it, I think people are, at least at this point, they've been willing to turn a blind eye to all the other idiotic things he does, just in hopes that he will be able to do that. And maybe if he can do that, if he can turn that corner and do that, then we were going the right direction, and then we'll decide in 4 years whether or not he deserves another 4 years.
I'm on board with Trump. I mean, he is our president, so I'm supporting him.
Yeah, we have.
But let's get over the nonsense. Let's stop with the tweets.
Oh my God, man!
Let's stick to business. Let's talk about facts, not hyperbole. Let's, be presidential and lead us. And I like some of the topics on his agenda, absolutely, but it's just hard to get past. He's only been in office 3 weeks, and every day there's something else.
I need to open up the phone lines real quick.
Yeah.
If you guys are listening and you'd like to call in with a comment or a question, you can call in at 323-843-2826. Again, 323-843-2826. Okay, so back to what you were saying, Woody. That's one thing. Then he has that other side of him. And the other side of him, in my opinion, it can be dangerous, because the underpinning of stability is necessary for the economy.
Mm-hmm.
If he started a trade war with Mexico, that would not be good for our economy. As a matter of fact, there are certain states within our union that export the vast majority of the income, especially farming states, most of their income comes from exporting their products outside of the country.
Right, oranges,
all that
California,
stuff. Yeah. And so if you do stuff like that and you start a trade war, then
we'd lose.
We'd lose.
I mean, pick up anything in your house right now, turn it upside down, and look and say, who's it made by?
Yeah.
Look at your glasses on your face. Made in China is what it's going to say, or Taiwan.
Yeah.
Or some other place.
Exactly. And
it's
so
not like that there.
Yeah, it's not like
for us in reverse.
Yeah, it's one of those things wherein you have to think about like the ramifications of the other stuff. If you can control the other stuff that he does, and this war on the media he has, it needs to stop. And the lies. I think I have another clip from the same video. Jarvis, can you play the other clip I have from that same stream of Trump's with Kellyanne Conway's conversation with
Kellyanne Conway? Ooh, she's got a job.
To be inured to that, that's a lovely spin, but that's not what he was saying, Kellyanne. He was saying the media does not cover these stories because we don't want to cover them because we have some sort of agenda. That's what he was suggesting, and it's offensive given the fact that CNN and other media organizations have reporters in danger right now in war zones covering ISIS. And I just don't understand how the president can make an attack like that.
There's no question about that. Well, first of all, I want to tell you, I don't intend it as spin. I'm crediting the coverage that CNN and your colleagues across the media gave to these high-profile and high-casualty, very sad, very vicious attacks.
They're on the list of undercovered attacks.
As were dozens and dozens of others. But I do know what the president's point was because I've discussed it with him directly. And it's that we need to make sure that people understand that what was stated by Hillary Clinton, Secretary Clinton, in her convention speech, these are our determined enemies, is a really light way of referring to radical Islamic terrorism. He's willing to name it, and it was a big...
Man, she's smart.
Not only she's smart, but she's not gonna last 4 years. She's either gonna stroke out. She's gonna stroke out, have a stroke, have an aneurysm or something, or she's gonna step down because he makes it so difficult for his surrogates to come on because he'll shoot off a tweet and then it's saying something stupid, but they have to make it cryptic to say, okay, he didn't really mean this. What he meant was this.
Right.
When he probably is saying to himself, no, you guys, I really meant exactly what I said. Yeah. And so they're trying to soften things up.
Soften blow.
It's crazy. And I don't know how it's only been 3 weeks, man. And so much has happened in 3 weeks.
It's crazy. So
let's you want to go down through a few of the things that's happened in this past 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Say again. We got to go to commercial break. Thanks for telling me, Jarv. We got to go to a commercial break, and we'll go through some of these things in the next few minutes, okay?
Pay some bills.
Hi, I'm Dr. Yates. I'm a hair transplant surgeon. When people come to see me, they have a problem. They've lost a lot of hair, and they want their hair back. We have our own line of hair products, and I think it's a real winner. The way we start is with Mega Biotin. Number 2, Edge Control. It prevents breakage and holds the edges down. Apple cider vinegar shampoo. It adds body, it adds shine, and it also reduces inflammation. Depending on if your hair is dry, you want to use hydrating. If your hair is thin, you use the thickening shampoo. Then we have our secret sauce, argan oil. With that, we have what's called Miracle Blowout. The Sheen Spray is basically kind of a permutation of the argan oil. It just adds a finishing touch to the hair. And finally, the Dynamic Duo, Keratin Fibers. This makes your hair look thicker instantaneously. This doesn't come out in the wind, doesn't come out in the rain. We can guarantee this will help your hair and keep you from coming to see me about hair loss.
Zhivago timepieces are luxury watches for both women and men. Designs for women are inspired by classic femininity while maintaining their contemporary style. Designs for men blend classic elegance and sporty versatility. All timepieces remain true to the Zhivago lifestyle, including their glamorous presentation, which is a nod to the famous Parisian fragrance that started it all. Zhivago timepieces transcend the ages, recalling life's most treasured moments. Let Zhivago inspire you.
Visit www.zhivagowatches.com or shop Zhivago watches on Amazon.
We're Simone and Valerie, real estate professionals with Coldwell Banker Beverly Hills North, the #1 grossing office in the nation. Whether you're thinking of purchasing a new home, selling your old, or just have real estate related questions, we're confident we can help you.
One of the biggest complaints people have of their agent is lack of communication. so we make sure we are constantly in touch with our clients and keep them informed every step of the way. Our philosophy is simple: provide our clients with outstanding service from start to finish.
Our goal is to be there for you from your first home to any future properties you buy or sell.
We want to be your agents for life.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. So, again, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to give us a call at 323-843-2826. Again, 323-843-2826. I know that some people have called and couldn't get through. Just keep calling and we'll answer. Mm-hmm. Sometimes if we're in commercial, we're not answering at that moment. 323-843-2826. So this past week has been really busy at the White House, and he's done a few things.
And Mar-a-Lago, I think he went out to chill for a minute
with the Japanese Prime Minister.
Yeah,
and he also, that's maybe on a good Trump. I understand he spoke with the Japanese Prime Minister, and I understand that it went well. Mm-hmm. I guess that he decided that they shouldn't have nuclear weapons, which is a good thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys remember during the campaign, candidate Trump at the time was saying that he thought that we could let Japan take care of themselves in their own defense and let them get nuclear weapons on their own. And I said, hell no, don't do that. Yeah. Remember Pearl Harbor? Even most of us that listened to the show probably weren't alive during Pearl Harbor, but we'll never forget it. That's when Japanese kamikaze bombed Pearl Harbor near Hawaii. Right. Also, 9/11, we'll never forget that. No matter how our children's children will remember 9/11. Absolutely. You never forget some traumatic experience that your country has. There's nothing more traumatic than having nuclear bombs, hydrogen bombs dropped on your nation, which is what we did to Japan back in World War II.
Hiroshima.
Now, and
Nagasaki.
So if we allowed them to get nuclear weapons, and we're all cool and dandy now, and we're all friends and we're allies, but if we allowed them to get nuclear weapons, just think that if something happened, which anything is possible, wherein we're going to come to blows again, do you think for a second that they would hesitate to use something on us that we did on them, even though it may be 50 plus years later? They would not hesitate.
I don't know. I mean, there are a lot more consequences today.
It is, but I wouldn't even want to take the chance.
Yeah, no,
I wouldn't want to take the chance. So no, don't.
I'm glad Trump backed off.
I'm glad he backed off that as well. So all that being said, so he's met with the Japanese Prime Minister, and now they're going golfing in Mar-a-Lago.
He was playing into his ego too. He says the great Trump, and he's a very successful bussman, and all of this stuff.
Smart Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So now what else? Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions is now the Attorney General.
Is he a bigot or what? I mean, I don't know. I mean, everyone can change, but clearly he had some incidents where he was was identified as a bigot.
Me being a Christian man, I will
forgive him.
I not just forgive, but I would hope that people grow, because it's been 31 years since those accusations, and people changed. And I'm not the same person.
We were all different 31 years. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too. I was very different. I was a baby. So anyway, all that being said.
But people 31 years ago, everyone has evolved.
Yeah,
and so we'll see what happens.
So we'll see. I don't think it would be fair to, unless he killed someone, I don't think it would be fair to judge him on anything other than his philosophy on criminal justice. If he has the same sort of philosophy on criminal justice that resulted in us having mass incarcerations, if he has the same sort of philosophy on criminal justice that would allow things like Ferguson to continue, things like what happened in Baltimore to continue, then that's where we have an issue. Not on whether or not, because he was born and raised in the South, whether or not
31 years ago.
Yeah. He's automatically was born in a culture of some sort of biases and was never able to overcome that. I don't think that would be quite fair to him. So we'll see, but it is very much so a stark contrast from Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder, very much so. So, but he had a lot. He even had this. Usually the Senate is very. What's the word I want to use for the Senate? They call it the upper chamber, because it's more gentlemanly, even though they're lady senators, of course. But it seems to be the more civilized of the chambers of the House. The House of Representatives is usually the more raucous crowd.
Ghetto.
And then the senators are usually more dignified, for lack of a better word. But he even had senators coming out and speak against him, and Elizabeth Warren was forced to
they told her to sit down.
Yeah.
She was Coretta Scott King, I guess, wrote a memo, and she was reading that, and they said, "Shut up and sit down." Basically,
yeah. The way they did that was not good. For one, they're going to.
Bernie Sanders finished it out, though.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about? That brings up another point. So we had Elizabeth Warren and we have Bernie Sanders. Both of those two are not new to politics. More so Warren than Senators Warren at this level. Do you think they could lead the Democratic Party, or do we need younger blood to come in?
I don't know. I think, and I was wondering about that. In 4 years, we've got to have a candidate that represents the Democratic Party that can. We understand the issues of America, the heart of America, the Rust Belt, blue collar folks. So there's got to be a focus on that, because that's a huge part of the demographic. And Trump won on that. So who would that be? I like Bernie. I don't know if Bernie stands for aggressive, because right now with Trump, the thing I like about Trump is the fact that he's saying, things have to change. America is not benefiting from some of these agreements we have in place, and it needs to work to our advantage, and I'm going to change it. And I don't think Bernie has that same stance.
I'm going to interrupt you right there. So we have a caller coming through. Caller, can I have your name and the city you're calling in from, please?
What's up, my brothers? I'm calling from Los Angeles.
Francis.
How you doing, man? Yes, sir.
How you
doing, Francis? How's it
going?
going?
Doing, man?
We're doing very well, my brother. So, hey, what do you have to contribute to this conversation? We got 1 minute.
Anyway, no. I hate what Woody just said about the jobs that the immigrants are doing here, jobs that Americans themselves don't want to do. That's one point. And the point that you made earlier too, Ron, is very, very important as well, looking at both ends of the spectrum. However, that's another part, there's another piece that Americans are very ignorant to, and you and I have spoken about this over the years. Most of this refugee and this immigration problems that exist outside the world has a lot to do with what America does with the foreign policy. Now, people need to understand that. I think I posted something in my page recently about how the war started in Liberia, and you know about that. So people need to understand that America is responsible for some of these atrocities that go on in other parts of the world. Hence, they have to take responsibility for that. And I would say one more thing for you to leave. The truth is, America does nothing for free for any country, anywhere in the world. Nothing for free.
Right.
So if they're doing something for you, that means that out of indebted to you all the ways, or they want something else from you. So we just need to understand that. We just need to understand that. Period.
Yeah.
And those are the 2 points I wanted to make.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Francis. Always. Thank you.
And that reminds me, Trump made a statement about, you think America's clean, like we don't get our hands dirty.
Yeah.
When he was being interviewed, who was interviewing him at that point? You can go ahead and hang up, Jarvis. Anyway, so
he was. No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think it was on one of the Sunday morning talk shows or something like that.
Yeah,
when he said
and
that
they were
talking about Russia.
They were talking about Russia. And some countries that he said Russia's, he's a killer, he's a this, he's that. He says, what, you think America's hands aren't dirty?
Yeah.
And people just flipped out over that. But I was like, wow, I would, I've said that on the show before, we've done some things too that, Iraq, for example, weapons of mass destruction, nothing was going on. We went and removed Saddam Hussein. We had him killed, took over the country, and that's pretty bad. I mean, so for him to admit to that was didn't go over well with a lot of politicians. But hey, I was glad to hear him say that.
Well, you know what? It's one of those things.
He just keeps it real sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's keeping it real, but maybe that's keeping it a little bit too real, because all that being said, that may be true in certain respects, but that's different from Putin. I don't know. At least,
of course, yes.
Yeah, because Putin just flat out has people straight up murdered,
right.
and Putin actually, he has no chill. He's held on the office for 12 plus years. He stepped down to become prime minister and let someone else be president, but he was still pulling all the strings and then made himself president again. And the stuff that he's done to people, I mean, here you can have a knockdown, drag out, fight between Hillary and Donald Trump, but Trump won't have Hillary killed.
Right.
It's different in Russia. His biggest political opponents sometimes come up missing, and so that's different. So we can't compare the country. Has America committed its share of atrocities? I mean, I'm a black man. We're not perfect,
right.
but we are a lot closer to perfect than Russia and Vladimir Putin will ever
Which
be.
is why everyone wants to come here.
Which is why everyone wants to come here.
Because
I don't see exactly.
Laws,
I don't see a whole big mass of people wanting to migrate to Russia.
No.
So that's something that needs to be to be said.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that he brings up some really good points in that regards. So in regards to Jeff Sessions, I guess we'll see. We'll see whether or not he is going to be a fair minded person and keep minority rights or enforce minority rights, or whether or not he's going to be a throwback to a time that none of us are really proud of. And what else did he do? Oh, his national security advisor, General Michael Flynn. He was speaking during the campaign. I guess he was having discussions with the Russian ambassador, saying that they will likely ease some of the sanctions on Russia if Donald Trump was elected into office.
Which they're not. Which they've changed their idea on that, their position on that, right?
Well,
they're not going to use the sanctions.
Well, we're not certain but the fact that he had those types of discussions, this is where the double standard comes in again. The double standard is that if it's known that the Russians hacked into to affect the messaging that will somehow allow Hillary to win and for Donald Trump to make the greater possibility that Donald Trump would lose.
Which they did.
They did it in reverse. But if they were to do that, they will be calling for Hillary's head right now. But for whatever reason, they're really silent on the fact that Russia and all of our intelligence officials and authorities and organizations have pretty much confirmed the fact that the Russians were involved in manipulating our electoral system, not the process, but the system in regards to messaging, in regards to
the
hacks, the information flow and things of that sort, to try to influence voters to go one way or suppress the vote because people will become so disaffected and, again, cynical with the politics. So it is wipe their hands clean. I don't want to vote for either one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And a low turnout favors Trump.
Exactly.
So all that stuff being said.
No vote was a vote for Trump.
Exactly. So if that was the other way around, it would be an uproar. But for whatever reason, they're not really saying much about it. And then General Michael Flynn, who's a national security advisor, having conversations with Russia saying if we get voted, we'll ease the sanctions against you guys. Well, if that was the other way around, it would be, I don't know. It's just the hypocrisy is so thick.
I just think Trump managed to stomp it out before it began.
What do you mean?
Even with the 3 million of the votes, 3 million, the popular votes were, illegal immigrants. It's fake news that Russia, because there was so much fake news going on, even with the.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we go back to the FBI director having the fake news about Trump and Hillary Clinton with her emails, and then they had that information on Trump with the sexcapades over in Germany, Russia. That he did not release, but he did release Hillary Clinton's.
Mm-hmm.
I think Trump has been able to manage the media from calling out fake news to the point where they've kind of held back from reporting on certain.
So you think the media has kind of held back?
They're kowtowing a little bit. They are.
Think so?
I think so. I
don't know.
I think people do not want to be a victim of Donald Trump's wrath. I really do think
you think that's part of it.
And I think when he started, this is all BS.
Mm-hmm.
This is not. They did not affect the election. I think he was able to stomp it out. Now it's old news. Now nobody. Listen, he's in. Even if it was the fact, which it is.
I think that's dangerous because
and he's creating so much new news in the weeks
and that's what's dangerous because
he's
what it's doing,
diverting the attention.
Yeah, it's normalizing the fact that a foreign government is manipulating our electoral process. And if that's normalized, if that's swept under the rug because we want to go to the latest headlines or this, that, and the other, or we get caught up in a tweet without truly investigating and continuing to keep our eyes on those things that make us the world's only and longest lasting republic democracy, then that's a problem. So this could be a slippery slope, because then if this is normalized and we just kind of sweep it under the rug, then it can happen again.
Well, I think we're prepared for it. I mean, I don't know how you prepare for
I don't know.
fake news.
Or even the label of fake news. Hey, Jarvis, is the Facebook stream up? Because I don't see it here.
Let me say that.
Okay, I'm not
but
sure.
The label of fake news is even.
So you're right about that. So I'm not certain.
Yeah, I'm up.
Okay, so I'm not certain whether or not this is. Well, I know for a fact this isn't good for democracy, because you can't have these types of things happen to the pillars of democracy where foreign countries are in, and then you get one person who's a strong man, who wants to be a strong man, let's say Donald Trump, who's shooting down the one area of our society or of our government, or whatever you want to call it, when I say the media, that's supposed to keep power at bay and supposed to be skeptical of power and supposed to point out things that other like normal individuals aren't able to see and report to us. So he's downgrading that institution, and it's already so fragmented that if you are on the left or on the right, you're only going to listen to things you want to listen to.
Yeah.
So
you're the Fox or CNN.
Yeah, exactly. So now you cut that down and say, okay, they don't count anymore. They're fake news. We don't listen to them. Only listen to me. That's one step towards state-run television, which is what they have in Russia, which is what they have in China.
Yeah, true.
So you have that. And then on top of this, you have him, and like we spoke about last week with Kellyanne Conway, having alternative facts.
Right.
So now you can't be checked on what you say, because now if anyone checks you on it, that's fake news, even though it may not be fake. And you've downgraded them to the point, or dismissed them to the point where now the electorate doesn't pay any attention to the facts. Then you come up with your own alternative set of facts.
So who do you believe?
Exactly. And then you have a rampant tweeter who will say stuff that he may or may not mean, and I say he may or may not mean because that's just giving him the benefit of doubt, because sometimes his surrogates will come out afterwards and say, well, he didn't mean it like that, he meant it like this. That's all a big stew of a recipe for disaster. I guess that's what it is. It's a recipe for disaster.
It's some type of recipe. I don't think the cake is finished baking yet, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, so we're down to our last 3 minutes, and I want to talk a little bit about next week. Next week, what we're going to do, Betsy DeVos, and excuse me if I'm mispronouncing her name, she was just confirmed as the education secretary. Now, if you guys know anything about her, you'll know that she's from Michigan, my home state, but she's never been pro-public schools. Never been. She's been pro-charter, pro-private schools, but never been pro-public schools, never worked in a public school system.
Right.
I think she owns some private schools and some charter schools.
Yes.
She actually, none of her children have gone to public schools, but yet she's the education secretary. She's a billionaire that donated heavily to the Republican Party and has some very radical views in some people's eyes about education. And this is huge, because I've always said that education is the one area where people in this country can experience economic mobility if you're properly educated. But public education right now in our country, in my mind, stinks, especially in the urban core, especially in inner cities. It's like they're set up to fail. Unless you have some extraordinary talent, unless you can sing really well, dance really well, or play ball, your odds of making it through in this day and age through a public education system in the current inner city, the odds are against you being able to go to a major university and really perform it. It's all tied into poverty. It's all tied into a lot of stuff, and the Democrats didn't really do anything for it. Republicans didn't either, because Republicans want it's a whole lot of stuff. Anyway, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to have Karen. We're also going to have a guest next week. We're going to have Karen Corver,
right? And
she's the co-founder of High Tech Los Angeles, which is a charter high school, and director of college counseling and internships. She's going to visit us and she's a smart young lady. She's a doctor of education from UCLA, and she'll be here, and we'll talk about the state of education in America. For all of you out there who are concerned about education, public schools in your communities, this will be a great show for you to listen to, and you're going to be able to call in and ask questions and let me know what you think about public schools and what needs to be done to bring them up to speed. Maybe it takes more than just the right books. Maybe it takes what I think is, proper nutrition, feeding the kids in school, all the type of stuff that's necessary to make our children reach their potential in the classroom and outside. So that's next week. Thank you again for listening to us this week on this, and thank you, Jaway, for calling in. It's a great call. We're going to have a lot more to talk about that in another segment. So thank you again. Enjoy your weekend. We're signing off. This is Ron Frierson, and for my brother Woody
Wilson, don't
and
drink
for
and drive.
Jarvis and Sophia, all you guys, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.